Hey newbies, happy Tuesday. Oh, I got a crazy cough. I'm going to talk about hiring staff. So, a lot of brokers that onboard you have standard operating procedures in terms of contracting, and some are more stringent than others. So I think it's our responsibility as we employ staff to make sure that we have our own systems in place when we're bringing staff on. We want to make sure that there's an application, right? You can find a standard application form online. You could purchase one at Staples. You want to have an application because that's your record of employment. You want to make sure you're using a payroll processor to pay those employees, right? That's an excellent tax deduction at the end of the year. But also it's about compliance. If you have someone on payroll, you should be using a payroll processor, right? That money, there should be a paper trail leading to that money and showing where that money came from and where it went to, right? So we want to make sure we're paying our staff on payroll. No more of just like bootlegging it and just operating in a manner that's not, conducive to being a serious business owner or being serious about your business and scaling and growing, right? So we want to have those staff on payroll. Just like when you think about all the times we went out and applied for a job, we filled out an application, there was a screening process that we had to bring back documentation, whether it be ID, our birth certificate, social security card, passport, whatever that is. We should have all that information for anyone that we're employing, right, in an employee file. So God forbid the labor department comes for us for whatever reason, the IRS, whatever the reason is, right, we need to be compliant and have a paper trail and have our system to be able to pull that on demand if for any reason that should come about, right? You remember the employee handbooks that we used to get when we applied for jobs that got hired as a new hire? We need that for our business. Again, we want to present our business as a regular business operating out here in the world, that a serious business, not something mom and pop fly by night business that that we just running almost like it's a hobby. Take your business serious. It doesn't have to be a thick manual with pages upon pages, just short. What are the expectations? What are the expectations about attendance, requests for time off, reporting incidents, whether it be accidents or incidents with your clients? Because sometimes there are things that happen that are that need to be reported. What are the expectations? We know a lot of clients ask for additional rides, to stop here, stop there. We have to talk to our staff about that's taking on more not more responsibility, but more liability, right? If that driver is expected to pick that person up and take them home, but being nice, and I've done it, but again, it's about setting the standard and being clear on what's acceptable and what are standard operating procedures for your company, your business, right? What if they decide to be nice and stop the person at a grocery store, and as the person is getting out the car, they slip on ice, right? It's about to be wintertime. That was increased risk because no, you didn't have to stop that person to the store. Maybe you're doing it to be nice, but there's the clear guidelines in the manuals from the broker that you should not be doing that, right? But sometimes when we're not following standard operating procedures, or we don't have standard operating procedures in place for our business, we may fail to review those same rules and policies with our staff. So there has to be some type of onboarding and orientation, a reference package. What's an incident? What type of incidents need to be reported? Again, have this conversation, yes, but also have it in writing, because the first thing that's going to happen if something goes wrong, that employee is going to say, oh, I didn't know. Well, if you have standard operating procedures, you have a new hire manual, you have a checklist that you cover, that you review this information and that person signs off on it, that's going to cover you, because you can go back and say, hey, when I hired you, let me pull this, you signed this, you said you agreed and you understood what you read. So again, let's think about making sure that we have systems in place and we are running our business in a professional manner. If you have questions about what a professional manner looks like, think about your first job or a job that you had before you started your own business. There was always procedures. There was order to it, right? You came in, you applied for a job, you filled out an application, you provided identification, they created an employee file, you had to fill out a W-9 or whatever your form is, your tax form for tax deductions, all those things. Think about all the things. Some places require drug testing. Many of them require background checks. And that's another thing. There are so many companies out there where you can do background checks. And it's important because, again, your business is at the forefront, right? This is how you survive. This is your manner of living. This is your means of supporting yourself and your family. So you have to look at that. So do I want to mitigate the risk? Do you want to just hire anyone? No. New York State, just about every state, I'm sure, but New York State has a sex offender registry list where you can go on there. That's important, right? Why is that important? Because, again, this is we're not talking about judging people. We're talking about protecting our business, right? And mitigating our risk. You're dealing with children. You're dealing with vulnerable people. I can think about a couple of my clients. I have a couple of clients that are blind. I have a couple of clients that have small children, and because they've been riding with us for a while, they entrust us to drive their children to appointments, wherever they have to go, right? Do I want to put a child in the car with a known sex offender? And I say known because it's public information. So even something as simple as that, we should be screening our drivers, because at the end of the day, they are the face of our company. They represent us. They represent you. And then not only that, you're liable for what happens, right? So we have to think about that. So there are plenty of companies out there, like I said, where we can run background checks and know who we're hiring. There are companies out there where, you can do it monthly, where you could just kind of go on. You could do it one time. So we should spend a little money and screen our employees. And I think most brokers and stuff are going to require DMV records, but we need our own standard operating procedure. Yes, I pulled your MVR. It's part of your employee file. Do you really want to hire someone with three DUIs or 3 WIs? Again, this isn't about judging people. It's like, do you want that person driving and increasing your risk, right? And exposure to lawsuits, damage to your reputation, your brand, your company. So all of these things are things that we need to think about. Putting those things in place. Standard operating procedures. If you don't know what they are, Google them. Make sure you're having a manual, a checklist, an onboarding package. Again, it doesn't have to be extensive like some companies give us a 50-page handbook. It doesn't have to be that extensive. Just have conversations about the things that are going to be important and cover yourself while you're in business, right? And always think about those little things that are going to mitigate or decrease your liability, right? So those are just some things to think about. Again, if you have any questions about what standard operating procedures are for a business, just Google that. And there are so many documents that you can get from Staples. Like I said, you can create a whole onboarding package for your employees. You want to make sure you have a filing system, whether you have an actual physical filing system or you scan your information and have a copy on your computer. You want all that stuff to be handy. You want to go over a checklist with your employees that onboard them to show that you reviewed information that's pertinent to protecting them and protecting yourselves. It's a great day to be great. All right, newbies, until next time.